you know, let's stay connected, and I'm going to pass it over to Kim.
Okay, thanks, Martha. I'm really excited to be here today. So before I start sharing my screen, yeah, please jump in if you guys have any questions or comments, or you'd like me to dive a little bit deeper into anything. You know, please come on video and unmute yourself and join the conversation. Or like Martha said, just post something on the side. I probably won't get to it, but the rest of the team can definitely help answer any of your questions. Awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead here and share my screen with you all.
Yep, sorry, we'll let you know when it's loading, no problem. It's pretty neat that how we're connecting from Corinne's in Virginia, and Kim will tell you that she's, are you in Thunder Bay right now?
No, Fort Frances.
Fort Frances. She'll put that on a map for everybody to give us a sense of where that is. And we're in Newmarket. Titus and Barb are in Stratford and London, Ontario. And Jeff is in Toronto. Oh, Bailey's in London as well. And Michelle is over in the UK. So.
Okay, let's see here. It's giving me an error that I wasn't getting before, so let's do this.
Let's do it.
Okay, has it loaded yet?
It's just loading. Yay, we're good.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to talk to start a conversation today about Indigenous learning perspectives and how I've worked in the Treaty 3 area to support and connect students that are living in remote communities. So I'm going to just go through everything and share with you guys part of my experience and what I've kind of learned along the way. So a little bit about myself to start. I've been a teacher for 15 years, which is kind of crazy when I think about that. I've worked in Winnipeg, I've worked in Calgary, and I see that there's somebody online from FFCA. That's where I taught for 5 years, so nice to connect with you again. And then once I had my son, who's 10, I decided that I needed to be closer to home and expose him to all the things that I grew up doing. So fishing, hunting, just being in a more rural area. So I moved back home, and at the time there was no teaching jobs in the regular school board, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. My dad's an educator, and he's like, you know, don't move, you have a great job. But I decided that I was going to move home, and I got an amazing job at Seven Generations Education Institute, and I've been there for the last 9 years, and it has been amazing. I've learned and grown so much as an educator, but also as a person, and it's been an unreal experience. So if you want to connect with me after, you can find me on Twitter, and then at the end as well, I have my email address if you'd like to connect or you have any further questions that you'd like to ask me. So the next picture is, or the next slide is an interesting one. I chose the words inspire, empower, and transform because when I think about the students that I work with and the remote learning that we do, those are 3 really key words that I want to keep in mind. I want to work to inspire the students, to show them the world outside of their community, and I want to empower them to tap into other resources and to transform what happens. So instead of them, you know, thinking that they can only do one thing, one job in their community, to transform their thinking, to know that they can tap into other resources. They can, you know, run a website from their home community, or they can they can do programming, or they can build apps from within their community without ever having to leave home. And the picture is actually, it tells a story as well. So these are some of the students from my communities that I support, and we were invited to attend a Minecraft session down in Toronto. So for the two girls in the background, that was their first time ever being on an airplane, ever traveling to the city. So it was a pretty big experience. They attended the Minecraft session with their teachers. And then the little boy in front is my little guy, and I brought him with me as well to come and attend the Minecraft session. But it was a very powerful session where we learned about Minecraft, but then as well, Microsoft invited us to come and do a photo shoot to try and increase the amount of Indigenous students that were in the photo database for Microsoft. So my students were thrilled to be able to participate in that. So was my son. And it was a really empowering experience for them. They really saw their value and that they were contributing to a larger picture and a larger scale, which was really exciting for them and for me too, to be able to kind of bridge that gap and to show them that. And I also put this on here because, you know, we all have our whys, why we do everything, why we get out of bed every day. And, you know, that little boy in the front, that's my why. That's why I do everything that I do, is just for him and to make sure that he has all the experiences that the rest of the students in Ontario have access to. Just because we live where we do doesn't mean that he shouldn't have access to all of that. So this was kind of a dual purpose photo.
I love it, Kim. So amazing.
So this was kind of the slide I think Martha was talking about. So I live in Fort Frances, Ontario. The easiest way to describe it is I'm 4 hours from Winnipeg, 4 hours from Thunder Bay, and we're on the American border. So anytime you want to come to see me, you either have to fly to Winnipeg or Thunder Bay and drive 4 hours to get to me, or you fly to Thunder Bay and take Bearskin, which is extremely expensive. So not the easiest place to get to, but that provides us with lots of land and opportunities for land-based learning, outdoor education. So Fort Frances is part of Treaty 3, which you can see in the other photo. And all of my schools that I support are within Treaty 3. So that's the treaty organization that we are a part of. And most of my schools are Ojibwe. So most of the communities that I attend, they all speak Ojibwe, and there's a huge push right now for language revitalization and connection to the culture. And I'll kind of get into that in a little bit about the importance of that in the community. So the next slide here is 6 different pictures, and it's kind of like the day in the life of working with remote schools. So the first picture is my team and I, and we take a float plane to one of our schools. So Wendigo Island is one of the schools I support. It's obviously an island school. It's a one-room schoolhouse, and I've been working with them for 8 years, and it's had anywhere from 10 students to 3 students, just depending on, you know, the population. It is a transient community, so people are either live on the mainland part of the community or the island part. So it's exciting. We get to take a float plane there. So that was really the first time we went. I was like, this is so cool. So yeah, it's exciting. The next picture is of the river, myself at the river. So on my way to Lac La Croix, there is a sacred bridge that we stop at, and we offer tobacco. And when we offer tobacco, we ask the Creator to help us do good, to help keep us safe during our travels. And it's a very moving place. The water's really fast there, and it's just always beautiful. So we always take a few extra minutes to stop there and kind of reflect on the work that we're doing and to make sure we keep everything real and positive as we move forward. When I first started at 7 Gens, my supervisor told me that anytime you see an eagle in your path, it is a sign of good things. It is a sign that you're doing good work, and be proud of what you're doing and keep steady on the path. And so I was on my way to one of my school visits one day, and that eagle was just sitting there. So I thought, oh, well, I'm going to take a picture of him. And so I keep that in mind, that, you know, what we do as educators is not always easy, but we need to stay on the path and know that we are doing good things. So whenever I see an eagle, I just kind of pat myself on the back, and I'm like, yes, we are doing good things. So
amazing. Kim, I'm listening to all of this as a attendee, because I just love the connections you're making, and it's so moving to hear you talk. And so as an attendee, I just want to absorb it all. But as a facilitator, I feel like I need to jump in and say, from the audience or those who are joining and listening, I just want to pause and think about, you know, just those last two pieces. I mean, even all three of those pictures tell such a deep story. But as we're thinking about the well-being of how you feel supported and your professional practice, your passion, do you get that type of feedback from your supervisors? Like that connection, you know, it's so much more than just a job. And so I'm curious in the chat window if you want to, you know, contribute the ways in which you get, you've had a supervisor who has guided you, really guided you and grounded you in the work that you're doing. Do you have that connection? And if you can share a story about it, that would be amazing. If not now, but or now, whenever. I want to make sure that you have that reflection point, because I think it's so powerful. So sorry for jumping in, but
no, that's okay.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm, you know, in my position as a program support teacher, I support those 5 schools. And so not only do I have my direct supervisor, but I also have the principals of those 5 schools, and I also have the students. And, you know, I guess I know that my affirmations of, you know, when I go to Walmart, not now obviously, but when I could, you know, be out of the house and everything, when you're at the grocery store or you're at Walmart and you see the students and they're so excited to see you. You know, they're on their trip into town to get their groceries or do what they need to do. And they see you and they come and give you a hug, and you're not their classroom teacher, right? I'm just providing support. And so those are the real moments where you're like, yes, I'm doing great things. But that being said, I do have an amazing supervisor, and I have an amazing team that works with me to accomplish all of these things. So did that kind of answer your question?
That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll go through these next pictures quite quickly. But the picture of the orange shirt.
Don't rush.
No, I won't. But the orange shirt day was a PD day around here as well, and we took our teachers, all of the teachers from all 5 schools. We gathered them together, which is quite a feat. So they're coming from all over Northwestern Ontario. Some are 5 hours away, some are 1 hour away. And we all arrived at Manitou Mounds and we did a medicine walk. So an elder led us through a medicine walk where we gathered the 4 traditional medicines, and then each teacher made a medicine pouch and they took that with them. A lot of them have it in their classroom and their students can, you know, grab it. It has a great scent to it. They can, you know, just take it if they need it, or the teachers use it themselves just to help keep them grounded. So that was a really powerful PD day that we did. I would love to replicate it again, and to just, when we think about remote learning, you have to empower the teachers to take things back. So we brought all of the teachers together because they're only in one school. They don't have an opportunity to connect with teachers very often. So on a school-wide PD day, that's what we do. We try and bring everybody together to create community, and then they take whatever we've done and they bring it back to their own community. So that's really, when we think about remote learning, that's one way we do it, because everybody needs a connection. Everybody needs a community that they can connect to, that they can feel a part of. And although we connect via email and we connect online, it's really important that we also have that face-to-face when we can. And so that's what we try and do on those PD days. And then the next 2 pictures are about some partnerships that we've had. So being remote students, being students that don't have opportunities to have people in their school very often. The first picture was a partnership with OISE and the Jackman Institute, and we had teachers go into our First Nation schools and do math lessons with them. And then our students were actually the experts, and they created math lessons with Indigenous perspectives built in that those teachers then brought back to their own school. So our students really had an opportunity to be leaders and to showcase their culture and their tradition, and then that other community brought it back to their own school. So our kind of going back to that whole inspire, empower, transform, and letting our students be the leaders and exposing them to that. And then just another photo shoot, or sorry, another picture from the photo shoot of our Microsoft chants. So it was amazing. I know that some of these pictures are posted up around the schools where the students attend, and it was just really quite an enriching experience. So, yeah, so that's kind of like a little snapshot of the day in the life of us. So the next slide is I'm going to try and get in a little bit more about remote learning. So these are a few of my schools that I do visit. They don't visit them as frequently as you would think a program support teacher should. First of all, because we live in Northwestern Ontario and the weather is not always ideal. So we have to get creative in how we support our teachers and our students. The first picture there, Sakatchewan Anishinaabe School, is in Grassy Narrows First Nation. So from me, that's almost a 5-hour drive. So if I wanted to go to visit that school, I would most likely drive to Kenora, spend the night, and then get up early. And then Kenora's 2.5 hours from me. And then I'd get up early, and the next day I would drive to Grassy Narrows, which is about a 2-hour drive from Kenora, spend the day there, and then drive home. The teacherages at all of my communities are full, so there's not really an opportunity for us to stay overnight. So it's a lot of driving back and forth. So when you think about time and safety, sometimes it's just not realistic to attend the school for those purposes. So tapping into ways that we can use remote learning and to share resources online is a big part of what we do. Then the next picture is us on the ice road. So you saw the float plane. So sometimes in the summertime we fly, sometimes in the wintertime we take the ice road. So that's my team and I on the ice road going to Wendigo Island in the wintertime. It's right now we can still drive on the ice, but there'll be a time when those students that are on the island can't go on or off the island because of freeze up and thaw. So the whole community is on the island, they can't leave. And the high school students that go to War Road, Minnesota for high school, actually at that point in time get billeted out in the community. So they, instead of missing 2 weeks of school at freeze up and thaw, War Road, Minnesota houses those high school students so that they have uninterrupted learning during that time. So, and then Mi'kmaq School is my closest school. So the one that I attend most frequently because it's the easiest to get to, and it is it's on all highway. A lot of my communities I have to go on back roads and everything. So Mi'kmaq is the easiest to get to. So I do attend that one the most frequently. So those are just a little bit of snapshot of kind of why it's important for us to use remote learning, why we need to, because we can't always get there.
So with your high school students, they go to high school in Minnesota?
Just the Wendigo Island students, yeah. So they, any of the high school students, and it's a big trek for them. So in the morning, they leave their home community. They get up about 5:30. They leave Wendigo Island at 6. So they either go ice road or so they drive a truck on the ice road or a bus in the wintertime, or in the summertime, they'll go by boat. And if it's like a little bit of ice and some open water, they have an airboat that they use with like the big wind propeller. So the students go across the water and then they get to Youngs Bay, which is in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. They get on a bus at Youngs Bay and then they cross into Canada. And then they drive, they have an hour drive, and then they cross back into Minnesota at Customs in War Road, Minnesota, and then they go to school. So it's about a 2.5 hour or 2 hour trek for them just to get to school in the morning, and then again on the way home. Wow. Yeah, and that's for them to finish their education. I mean, there is opportunities for independent learning modules, but if they want a high school, if they want something different than the independent learning modules, that's their option. So, yeah. Now I'm going to try and play this video, but it wasn't letting me select to include the sound. Yeah, it's not going to work. So what I'll do is I'll post the link.
Oh, yeah, we hear it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm going to just do a little bit of an intro on this before I play the video. So Lac La Croix First Nation is about a 3-hour drive from Fort Frances. You go an hour down the highway and then 78 kilometers down a gravel road to get to Lac La Croix. And it is a beautiful community, as you'll see in this video. Very tight-knit community. And when I first started working with this school and this community, I found that the whole community is always welcoming, and they are interested in growing and learning with you, and they want as much as they can for their students. So this opportunity arose where they were able to partner with Niwijan, I can't really pronounce it. And this organization came to Lac La Croix First Nation, spent 4 or 5 days in the community, and worked with the First Nation students to create a video. And this video really was embracing everything that the students wanted to share. So the students created the lyrics, the students used what was important to them, which you'll see in the video is a lot of culture, language, and just being true to what they are. So I'll play the video, and I'll also share the link after in the chat so that you can, if you want to use it or watch it again, but it is quite powerful. So I will just play it. Maybe.
Now it's not loading.
So that kind of multi-purpose, that video, it is very moving. You'll also be singing it all day. So you can think of those students up in Laclacroix as you recite the Firemaker's tune in your head. But I thought it served a good purpose here because not only does it show the students that I work with, but it also shows what their remoteness looks like. So right now we're talking about remote learning where our students aren't able to attend school, but their remote learning is a lot different. You saw, like the aerial shots of their home, their community, their hiking. So their remote learning looks a bit different than what we're talking about, but I still think it was important to tie in so that we understand when we think about remote learning that it looks different for everybody. So our students in these First Nation communities are using remote learning, but so are the kids in towns and in cities, and we're going to have to kind of muddle our way through what that support is going to look like over the next few weeks, months, until we find out what this new normal is going to look like. And this is one of my favorite quotes: "The 7 teachings make me proud," and that was Madison. She's the one that wrapped herself in the star blanket, and after I talked to Madison, I've been working with her for 8 years, and I really took that to heart. The 7 teachings I realized are so important to all of the students, their language, their culture. It's important to everybody, no matter if you're First Nation or your race or religion. Your culture is important to you, and so I decided to take the 7 teachings and to embed them into everything that I do, and so. The 7 teachings are listed here, and I really, in my work with my First Nation communities and anybody really, I try and walk the walk. I try and use these 7 teachings and embed them into what I do. I use them to connect with the students, to create lessons, because it is really true to what they're doing. They believe it, they live it. So that's, I guess, my hook. I use this to connect with them. We're going to kind of, I think next week we might be diving a bit deeper into the 7 teachings. So I'll get a little bit more into it then, but just to kind of tie in with the video with what Madison said, and that's what I try and use in my work with the schools and the communities. Okay, so now getting into what our support looks like. So with my job, I support literacy, numeracy, student retention initiatives in those 5 remote communities. And it's challenging sometimes to get the students to come to school. They don't always have, super fun tech. They don't have robotics clubs. They don't have Lego clubs. Those things are up and coming. They were getting more exposure to them, but initially when I first started, it's not something that was offered in the community. It's hard to find those specialists that will go to the communities and spend a lot of time. There's a high teacher turnover. Usually it's been getting a lot better in the last few years, but there's a high teacher turnover. So if somebody comes in with a great idea, they may not stay long enough to see it through. So the first picture there is David Bouchard. He has an awesome book called The 7 Sacred Teachings, and he's come to our schools and talked about the importance of reading with our students. And it really is empowering to our students when somebody comes into their community and cares about them and spends time with them. So although remote learning is really important, so is sometimes the face-to-face. And just one of the issues is the cost. So the cost for us to bring an author to all of our 5 schools is very, very costly. We have done like author shares where, the students connect via Teams or Skype. But sometimes just having that person in their community where they can tour them around and be proud is a whole other element. And then the next part is getting into a little bit about the student retention and, giving hands-on activities, so having them do something hands-on and then sharing it back with us, what they've done. So a lot of times we get, daily pictures of what the students are doing in the classroom if they're hands-on. And I think that as our students are learning to work in this remote or this online or digital world, that's something that we can connect with. As their teacher, they can do something and then share it with us, whether it's a picture or a video. And that's a lot of the times how we connect with our schools and our students. And then the last thing is these three little girls. So culture is huge in my 5 schools, and these little girls made ribbon skirts to wear to ceremony, and that was a whole math lesson on, you know, how much ribbon do you need and how tall are you, and so we really incorporated the math perspectives into linking it with their culture, and then they shared it obviously with us once they were done, and they were so proud. Like, I mean, look how cute they are.
So sweet.
So one thing that I would say was probably my biggest lesson in this whole, in working with 7 gens, is how important community is. In building trust and building relationships, you have to be part of the community. You have to be brave enough to take a leap in and to share your story and to open up and become part of their community. And I found that once I was part of the community, I was able to connect with everybody a lot easier. And so building a community. So if it's going to be an online community, we need to make it strong, and we need to make sure that everybody feels welcome and everybody can share their story and be part of it. And so in this picture, this is at Wendigo Island School, and we had a parent and a student night, and we had lasagna and Caesar salad, and we played some board games, and so it was a fun night. But it was that was when we first started, and we just needed to build community. We needed people to see that, you know, we're in it. We're here to support you and help you. And as we move forward with that remote learning, I think that's also important, to build that community and to make those ties and to stay strong in this digital landscape, because it's going to be different and it's going to be challenging, but it's no challenging than what we did there. So so then supporting remote learning from what we do. So my office is in Fort Frances, and then I have my 5 communities that I support. So I kind of talked about this earlier when we talked about the medicine walk, but we look at empowering our teachers and our principals. So we bring them all together. We provide them with a teaching, usually something that they can bring back to their students. And so then, we share it, and then they share it, and then the kids share it with their parents. And so it's a much larger piece. We try to empower the school to just have what they need to share. So getting creative is the next thing. So this is a picture of one of the teachers, Mario, and he found that his students were incredibly musically inclined. So he had the high school students build him a recording studio, and then he had the art class painted, and he was really able to get creative and use all of the different teaching, all the different classes to meet some of the curriculum outcomes that he needed. And now the students go downstairs. They have a place that they can make recordings, and not only is it a great place in the school, but they're learning how to use that those digital skills that will put them further ahead in life. So really tapping into the needs of the community and getting creative. So I know that there are some songs that some of the students have shared on Instagram and YouTube, and so they're getting out there. So kind of making that connection between what's happening in the community and bringing it out to the greater digital world. And then the last one is, again, like I've said before, it's so important, is connecting with the culture. So allowing our students that opportunity to be exposed to their culture, bringing elders into the school or connecting with stories online. Anything we can do to expose them to that is a really good way to support their learning. So not always can it be done remotely, but sometimes it can. So just really making sure that we have those hooks and we're connecting them with the culture. And then getting into some of our challenges. So obviously access and equity are a couple of the major challenges that we have in these remote schools and communities. This is a picture of the library at one of the schools. It has, you know, like maybe 4 or 5 bookshelves at the back, and it's full of books, but there's not a librarian in the school. So the students, they're just there. The books are just there. The teacher will come and take them out for, you know, a guided reading or a read aloud or something like that, but the library is not used to its full potential. And then the other picture is the playground at Wendigo Island. So this is, you know, the students' main play space on the island is what is here. The cement slab, they try to make it into a rink sometimes in the winter, but it's challenging. It's a lot of work. So just when we look at the challenges, it's not only, you know, the basic, you know, the library, the play structure, but it's also the access to technology, to Wi-Fi. So when we're looking at moving forward in this, what this new digital learning is going to look like, we have to keep in mind that not all students are going to have access to laptops, smartphones, or Wi-Fi, because I know a lot of my students don't have access to Wi-Fi. They don't have it in their home. The school has it, and sometimes they will go, like the schools are usually open all the time in these communities, so they'll go into the school and access the Wi-Fi, but they don't have it in their home or community. So moving forward, that's the thing that we have to keep in mind about how do we bridge that gap with access and equity to make sure that everybody is included, no matter where you are or what your socioeconomic status is, your geographical location. So just kind of keeping that in mind. And I think as we move forward, it will still be a major challenge to bridge that gap. And then this is my last slide, and it's just reminding us to, you know, to be kind to ourselves and that we can do this. So it's going to be you know, as we move forward, it's going to be challenging, and it might, you know, there's going to be some uphill battles, but there's also going to be some successes, and we just have to remember to stay positive. And you know, when you see that eagle, to pat yourself on the back and say, like, yes, I'm doing good, I'm doing great things, and just to keep moving forward. And so I guess I'll open it now. I'll put my last slide up, but I'll open it now if anybody has any questions or comments, or if there's anything that the team wants to bring forward from the chat, because I haven't been able to read both. So
the conversation is amazing. It looks like somebody wants to jump in there, so I'm going to be quiet.
Hi, Kim.
hi.
That was so heartwarming. And I think even just like reading the chat, I couldn't even just bring myself to contribute. I was just like, oh my gosh, the sense of community, no matter what, no matter where we are, with how much we have or how little we have available to us, how do we maintain that sense of community? And I think that's where many of us are feeling that struggle right now, because when we're all in one place, we're just intrinsically doing that. Now, how do we take that same feeling, that sense of I got your back in our situation of remote learning? And I'm just so grateful. Honestly, I just wanted to say that out loud to you, to sharing your story and your experiences and the amazing journey that your students encounter, and also just highlighting how me as an educator to be more reflective in how I can indigenize my teaching and learning to ensure I'm bringing those perspectives that very much would inspire the students today in our own situation, as some of them will still continue to go outdoors while practicing social physical distancing, but can be very aware of their environment right now and how to make those connections. So you've definitely given me a lot to think about, and I'm grateful to you for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And it is, it is hard to build community. And it's, when I started, it was hard to let them know that I'm in it for the long haul because of the teacher transition and all of that. But as we move forward, it is just going to be about, letting people know that we're here and this is what the new normal is going to be, and we're going to make it work, and it's going to be okay in the end, right? And there's going to be hiccups and there's going to be challenges, but once we have that group, that's going to be our community, that's going to be our go-to, and the students are going to learn that, that'll be their new safe place. They may not have their school building that they can, go to, but they'll still have that community that they can count on, and that's going to be important. And, I think to tying back into what we talked about earlier in the week, it's like turning on your video to have your students able to connect to each other via video instead of them, just being nervous or scared to have their video on, or, somebody's got laundry in the background like I do, but, so just knowing that you can have laundry in the background, it's okay. It's not a big deal. But thank you, Celia. I really appreciate that. Okay, so I'm just reading this little chat window from Nancy. How do you bridge the gap for kids without Wi-Fi or devices? So that's a big challenge. The program I work for is called the First Nations Student Success Program, and we have, with the direction of the principals, we've provided one-to-one devices in all of the schools, but they don't go home. So the students in the schools have one-to-one devices, so iPads for K to 2, and then 3 to 6 have laptops, Chromebooks, Surfaces, whatever the school preference is. But one of the problems we do have is the amount of bandwidth in these communities. So Lac La Croix, for example, is 78 kilometers down a gravel road to their community. So there's no cell service. So if they want upgraded bandwidth from what they have, it's going to cost millions and millions of dollars. So it's a challenge for sure. Nothing that I can change, although I would really, really like to be able to just, snap my fingers and provide the school and community with Wi-Fi. But I think just keeping that school community place open so the students that don't have access, they can go there, and they will need to keep in mind their social distancing and following all of those rules, but just providing them a place where they can access it. And I know one of my, I don't know if it's going to be a solution, I don't know how it's going to iron out, but we've talked about providing rocket hubs to the families that do have access to cell phone service, so that they can have access to Wi-Fi during this time. But again, there are some places in some communities that don't have that option. There's no cell service. So it's just, trying to find a solution that works within each community to ensure that there's that access and equality for all of our students in North America, Ontario, Treaty 3, whatever you want to say. I don't know if that answered, but I tried.
From a technology, it's okay not to have the answer, and that was some great insight. I think from a technology perspective, Nancy, what I know from HP, Microsoft, and Google, they're all looking at solutions to create hotspot scenarios. So, looking at different ways to deliver connection, not necessarily through Wi-Fi. So, certainly it's elevated the challenge or the issue of equity with respect to the digital divide, where we're at with all the schools closing. So, I think that we have some large technology companies that are putting their minds towards how to better support in rural, remote areas across the world, really. And so, if anything, they're paying closer attention to that. So from the chat too, Kim, there's, like Krista says, thank you for the clear examples of being the learning with respect to the ribbon skirts, right? So I know one of my takeaways from this conversation is really like it's not about curriculum expectations. or graduate expectations. It's like student at the center, and making sure that the student is supported and the student in the community and the community is supported as well, and that being a critical piece. And I think that bringing in the digital tools to support that. But what I was going to say is that you know, you offered up the opportunity to go deeper with the 7 teachings. And so we want to do that. And so next Wednesday, and we'll have more information on it, but next Wednesday we'll commit that this hour to Kim talking through examples of, you know, how to indigenize, as Celia said there, the learning experiences that we're looking to offer our students, because there's such an opportunity to develop the whole child and to really value the whole child's experience and their community through these examples. And so it'll be a really powerful learning opportunity for all of us, and definitely will enrich how we approach our remote learning plans as we move forward. So thank you for that. That was amazing. I think everybody's sitting with what was just presented to us, because it's so amazing, and it's a lot to digest, I think, if I could speak for the group. I think that that's how we're all feeling, like a very powerful session. And just so you all know, Kim was like, Martha, I'm really nervous about this presentation. And I was like, yeah, of course you're nervous, because this is freaking amazing and so important. Like, this is so important, the work that you're doing. So it means you care and we care. And thank you for doing it and leading us in this exploration. It's amazing.
Yes, you're welcome. And I appreciate the opportunity. And, you know, I speak on behalf of, you know, the students, and I really, in bringing the students to the Minecraft session, and, you know, their first time on the plane and their first time going to Toronto and in a taxi, and, you know, all of those things, it was really eye-opening that there is a big difference in what happens in Northwestern Ontario, what happens in, you know, the GTA, or, you know, anything like that. And I just want to continue to share their story and to empower them to know that they can do anything they want. It doesn't matter that they live in Northwestern Ontario in a remote community. With the job market changing, they are going to be empowered to do anything they want. And I want to continue that movement. I want them to know that they can be anything they want to be. It doesn't matter where they live.
Awesome. And you're making such a difference. It's amazing. Okay, so being cognizant of time, we will stay on to answer any questions or just to connect. But tomorrow we're wrapping up this first week of staff room chats with Bailey Temple, who is working with us and is going to share and extend the conversation around inclusion and diversity. And also ensuring that we're preparing ourselves as adult learners. So like focusing on what adult learning looks like as we are, you know, absorbing so much information and having to upskill in so many different ways with respect to what our roles are becoming. So really looking forward to the conversation tomorrow and what Bailey has to share with us. She's been busy collecting resources that she thinks will be valuable for all of us. So thank you for the work that you're doing there, Bailey. And we'll see you all back tomorrow, but a huge thanks to Kim for just crushing it today. You did an incredible job, and we're thankful that Willem decided not to do his burpees.
Yeah.
So we could hear nice and clear.
Yeah,
so
me
thank
too.
you to your mom too for looking after him. We love seeing her when she comes to support you. So that whole family thing is so awesome, and obviously very clear and connected with you as well.
Yes. Well, thank you for the opportunity, and feel free if anybody has any further thoughts or they'd like to, have a further conversation about it, just contact me. I'm here. Obviously, nobody's leaving, so I'm around, and you can contact me.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim.
Yeah, you're welcome.